I'm just going to kind of take you through. How would you like it, Julie, if I explain to you in less than 7 minutes why people invest and the entire universe of investing? How would you like that?
I would like that in 7 minutes. And you have to talk to me like I'm an elementary school age child, because that's about where my understanding is.
I want you to know that this is the exact same thing that not only do I teach an elementary child or two, my own, but I have clients who are worth many hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's the same exact explanation that I take them through. So no parent should feel badly about any sort of elementary level education of finance, because they don't teach it in schools certainly they didn't when you and I were in school. And now they only teach it in some states potentially in high school for like one semester. So nobody should feel badly about that. Like nobody knows anything about this stuff. So it's all good. Okay. So let's first start with, why do we invest? The simple reason of why we invest, why do we not just take our money and just stick it in a mattress, is because of inflation, which is all over the news lately, right? Here's why inflation rules investing and why we know that inflation is always going to be there. Things get more expensive. That's the nature of inflation. And we know that that's going to happen because there is a branch of the government, or not a branch, but a part of the government, that it is their mantra to make sure we have inflation. And they want it to be around 2 to 3%. So we know that everything is going to get expensive on average over time by 2 to 3%. So if we just take our cash and we stick it in a box, we're literally losing purchasing power every single year. Okay. So I'm going to explain to you, though, the magic ingredient of why that is. So, Julie, let's say you're in the market for a new TV. Okay. And I give you $1,000 and I say, TV costs $1,000. And you're like, great, I need a new TV. I say, but Julie, if you wait a month, the TV is going to cost $1,200. What would you do?
I'd buy the TV now.
Exactly. Now, that's inflation. Now, if I said, hey, Julie, here's the $1,000, but if you wait a month, the TV is going to cost $850. Now, what would you do?
I'd wait a month.
Exactly. That's why we need inflation.
Did I answer that right? Did I do those
you
questions?
Did.
Right, yeah.
And did I ask you like an elementary student?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, we're doing good.
Okay. So A+ so far. So if you extrapolate that throughout the entire economy, right? If things got less expensive, the whole economy would fall apart. People get laid off. It would be a gigantic mess. But if things get more expensive, then the economy rolls. People are incentivized to buy.
Oh.
So, right? So we must have inflation, which is why the Federal Reserve, literally, they have only two jobs, and that's one of them, is to make sure we have healthy inflation, 2 to 3%. That's why we invest. That's it.
Yeah.
Now the question is, what can we invest in? There's only 4 possible things that we can invest in. We, as an industry, meaning Wall Street, we've done a wonderful job of making this super, super confusing, right? Because we chop these things up in a million different ways, and we have newspapers about it, and do they have newspapers anymore? Do they make those?
I haven't seen one in a long time.
Okay, so maybe they don't make those. But they have TV channels about it, and they have all sorts of stuff, and apps and websites. Yes, all of that stuff, okay? But there's only 4 things. The only 4 things that you can invest in are, 1, is a stock. What is a stock? A stock is a piece of a company. You're buying in as a part owner of a company. Okay? So that's 1. The second is bonds, which few people understand, but I'm going to make it very easy. Bonds are basically people lending people money. I give you $1,000. You say, hey, I'm going to pay you interest on that. And after our agreement period, I'm going to give you your money back. It's just a loan. That's all a bond is. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. So far, so good.
Third thing is hard assets. Those are things, if they fell on your foot, they would hurt. Gold, foodstuffs, lumber, real estate, right? Things you can touch and feel, that's it. Those are hard assets. And the last thing is currency, money. So I don't care if you call that Bitcoin. I don't care if you call that the dollar or the yen or whatever. Currency, cash, right? So that's it. Those are the only 4 things we can invest in. Okay? So if I go back to the lesson of entrepreneurship, let's talk about Cassidy's jewelry venture. That's a company. So that is a platform you can use to explain all 4 of those things. I mean, she was the owner of a company. So you can talk to her through that lens. Maybe she has a need to borrow money. Well, that would be a bond conversation. She has to buy materials. She has to buy beads. Those are hard assets. And she's using currency all the time. So those 4 things that we can buy, they're all represented in that particular entrepreneurial venture. That's why that exercise is so important. Does that make sense?
Totally, yeah.
If we look at it through that lens, what I would say is ideally, so there's something called a UTMA account, and that's for the Uniform Trust for Minors Act, and it allows you to open an account, which you did already through Stockpile, and you go there, you open an account, and you are the trustee, so you get to make the decisions, because John is not an adult yet, and you get to buy investments. So you've been through phase 2, right? They have entrepreneurial experience. You've talked about stocks. You've talked about companies. You haven't talked about the other 3 things, which you can now, even though you might not call them those things, right? And you want to start buying things. Now, how do you know what to buy? You did the perfect thing, even without really knowing. It was, okay, John, what things do you believe in? What products do you use? What products do you like, right? I mean, those are the basic conversations. And ultimately, when you buy a stock, which is what you did, you're buying a company. So the decision that you would make, if, Julie, if you were going to buy a company, forget Tesla or anything, any Amazon or whatever companies you mentioned, if you were just going to go buy a company because you thought, hey, this is a great thing, I want to go buy this kitchen utensil company because I'm a chef, you would look at it and you would say, okay, well, what have you done in sales? Okay, that's good. And the next question you would probably ask is, okay, well, what about sales going forward? What about your projected sales? Like, how are you going to do next year? Those are the most important questions. I really don't care what you did. I really won't care what you're going to do. When you look for things to buy with your kids, those are the questions. That's it. You're just looking for practice opportunities, right? Going back to the goals, practice and familiarity. So it's, why do you like Tesla? Do you think they're going to do well going forward? Oh, that seems logical. Okay, then this is a good experiment for them.
Right. And like with John, he wants to make sure also that it's a good company for the earth because he's very environmental.
Right.
And so when I think that was part of Tesla's. He sees them all over the road. There's more and more every day. He knows that it's a forward-moving company, but he also believes that it is doing something positive. And so talking about that has been really good for us too, is yes, there's the money aspect, but you also want to feel connected and proud of the companies that you're supporting.
Wonderful. And that's incredible because you want to do what's important to him and what does he feel is going to be successful going forward.